Fear and greed run through the wire. Candles climb and then expire. Our edges cut from the profile, sharp and clean by every buyer. He conquers the markets, he turns water into wine. His timing flows where chaos turns divine. Cut sharp enough to time the sign. Yeah, this man's no common trader. He commands the market's numbers. We call him Chef Bailey. The market bends beneath his flame. Fear and greed run through the wire. Candles climb and then expire. Our edges cut from the profile, sharp and clean by every buyer. Markets move, they twist and swing. Every tick can burn or bring. Ryan keeps calm, he trusts his thing. The charts tell him everything. But when T1 makes ding, 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 the futures spread their hidden wing. And he is ready for anything. Vic's still looking like a restless king.
Ready to stop guessing and start growing as a trader. Welcome to Vici Trading Solutions, a community built by real traders for serious learners. We don't just post trades, we teach the why behind every move. With a full education section and daily breakdowns, you'll start seeing the market like a pro. You won't be trading alone. Inside the Vici Discord, you're surrounded by committed traders, from futures pros to rising crypto specialists, all learning and winning together. Gain first access to our exclusive indicators, powerful tools used daily by hundreds across TradingView and beyond. These aren't gimmicks, they're built to sharpen your edge. Each morning, our founder posts a full trading plan for the S&P 500 or NASDAQ and calls out the levels he's watching live. No fluff, just clarity. Education, tools, community. Whether you trade futures, stock, or crypto, Vici gives you the foundation and firepower to grow. Join Vici, trade smarter, conquer the markets.
Welcome back, everybody. Hello, and happy Monday. Another snoozer of a day. We actually ended up getting a move towards the afternoon. I was unavailable for that, but I see that they certainly did quite a number here. So we're back in balance, kind of what we figured out was going to happen after all. So anyways, with that being said, we have no news events this week. So it's going to be a very interesting week. We've come down. We're right back smack in the middle of everything. The trade plan was it played out pretty good. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean by that. I actually didn't finish the day. I finished the day with a very small red today. And I'm going to show you guys the trade I took and the loss that I took. And really, I just traded the plan and kind of do my number here. So what's going on, Mon-Thu? How we doing? So kind of tricky, guys. We are up at all-time highs. We got VIX at an all-time low. Well, not all-time low, but it's pretty damn low. And every time we get around here in the I would say $15 to $12 handle, we start to get a significant reaction in the VIX, which obviously always balances out the ES. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens here this week. Looking forward to this. And I've got some areas still that we're going to check out. So let's go ahead and get into the trade plan. But first, before we do that, as you guys know, as usual, please make sure you follow me across all these socials. That is what we got to do. Ryan Bailey Edge. Let's see. Here we go. Ryan Bailey Edge across YouTube, Substack, Facebook, YouTube, X, Substack, TradingView. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you hit that up. I'm always posting good stuff. And we got some tweets coming out probably this week. We got some History Says stuff that you're going to want to keep an eye on. I was kind of tinkering with it last night. Refining that out a little bit. So that's going to be good. So let's go ahead and get right into the action, shall we? So check this out. Let's go ahead and make this happen. So we've got, I don't know where my, I had one copy that was all highlighted up. I must have not saved it. My apologies. All right, so we got the 77.31 squeeze trigger and the balance on balance. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and read this since it's a shame I don't know where the other one went, but that's okay. So we're breaking down the 77.31 squeeze trigger, the 77.28 value area break, and the 1360 floor for VIX. As you guys just heard me say, the VIX is exceptionally low, and we actually got a nice little pop in that, which we'll talk about here shortly. So really what I wanted to start with over the weekend, as you guys probably saw if you watched the weekend review, really just talking about how the market actually works, how the balance works, and what the accepted values and push back up. Okay, so we've been seeing that happen really over the past 3 months as we've been basing sideways and continuing to move up. So this is exactly what we saw last week. We based sideways for about a week. We made a push up. We balanced sideways again for another week, and we push up, and then we balance again. And then obviously, as you know, we had that big push up on Thursday after we balanced sideways for a whole week. And then so now we're starting to come back down as we retrace and start to fill in some inefficiencies and really kind of clean this market up a little bit, because as we know, we had this major big balance area and we closed at the highs. And so we are obviously out of balance. So, like I always say, our edges and the edges, what do they tend to do? They, once price is, once it's pushed up so high, eventually we will pull back as they try to find a nice balance area and really a true price for that range. And that's where the balance comes in back and forth. It's basically buyers and sellers go back and forth trying to figure out what they think is fair price. Okay, so anyway, so this is how it works. And we've had a big massive move up, but the real question is do we hold this area for our next push up? Right now, I would say the probabilities are certainly in our favor, but we never know. Okay, so we have to just kind of keep our head on swivel, because right now we do have some geopolitical stuff in the works, and we really have a very suppressed low VIX, which I'm going to talk to you guys about here soon. So on the weekly profile, this was a massive push, and this took us out of this massive 8-week range here that we pushed way up here, as you can see. All right, and we balanced at the highs, and we had the overlapping value areas on the weekly. Now, mind you, I put both of these weeklies together, but let me just go ahead and show you what this looks like here. Before this was the big weekly that I showed in the profile for the weekend review. You can see this, we had that massive push up 2 Tuesdays ago. We balanced, we pushed higher, we balanced again. And so we have this big overlapping value essentially, which is one big profile when you put it all together. So that's what that means, okay? And we find ourselves really directly back in the middle of all this. And so, our edges at the edges. And so really determining where that is going to be will be quite interesting. So I wanted to show you this first so that you could see exactly what we're talking about here. Now, as you can see over here, this will be very important for you guys, because this is really going to bring a lot of understanding of how balance works, acceptance of value, and really just market mechanics and what I would call market auction theory. Okay, so we closed at the high. That's this little red diamond here on the weekly. We closed outside the value area high after we had an exponential move up. As you guys can see, it wasn't just one move up. This was two weeks ago. And then the previous week, we made an all-time high and closed not only above the previous week's value, but really at our current week's value area high, which was really just telling us that we were just, super trending up higher. But the issue is we never came back to earth, right? So we still have this big area below us. We never came back to earth. And so one of the things that I really wanted to show you guys here, because for those of you guys who trade with me in the room, you'll know that I often use the value area highs and the value area lows of the day to determine when we're a little bit out of value, and especially if we're going to try to play a rotation back, or even, when we're buying, if they sold off significantly, we're buying, trying to get, back up to values. But you can get a great idea of what's happening here because we closed outside of value, right? So this is a massive 2-week TPO here. And so they could easily get sucked back in. And once they do get sucked back in, there's a high probability we go from a value area high to a value area low, with the first stop being at the previous weekly point of control. And we saw that exactly happen today. Now, on the other side of things, we also know that underneath 28, it all goes bad. And we start to clean up this big efficiency, which is the massive push up we had a few weeks ago. So I wanted to start with that first and foremost. And just to show you, this is actually what happened today. Okay, so this was that same value area high from the previous week. As you can see, we started here with the overnight session. We basically opened up and started to push down. And believe it or not, this is actually what we talked about today in the room. The issue is for me, and I kind of get stuck in these little kind of, strange areas. Right now, my process is pointed up on all time frames. There's no question about it. We're up on the daily 4-hour and 1-hour time frame. And ultimately, I was looking for longs today and had one area in particular that we were after, and it did play. And it just didn't get the follow through we were looking for. But ultimately, what we started to do is analyze the higher time frame. And one thing came to fruition that I will soon show you, which is, when we talked about the 78.2250 level, I pointed out that was a high lost on the daily. And that was what made me believe that we could get a little rotation if they couldn't pull back in, if they couldn't continue the upside move. And ultimately, that's what we're seeing now. So here we are right back at that big composite value area weekly. You can see we're basically right below it. And ultimately, what we've done is we got sucked back in this massive value area. And there is a chance that we could go all the way down to the lows here. Now, that still makes us very bullish. That just makes it intraday bearish like we saw today. Okay, now keep in mind, as long as we stay above 28, we can absolutely stay within balance, just like you saw happen last week. This is essentially the same thing that happened. We went sideways, ultimately playing the highs and the lows, and then catching an all-time high bid. Now here we are again. Here's that today's close is the triangle, and we were right back in this multi-week balance. So we really haven't gone anywhere. I know it was a nice little sell today. They had no rotation whatsoever. It was all to the downside, which is pretty wild. But, even with that being said, until we get back below 28, we are still technically leaning to the upside. Okay, so just wanted to show you guys this from a TPO chart, how we got sucked back in the weekly. And here we are. And then over here, this is a massive composite value area that I put together from a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see, we pulled all the way in here and we started to accept value once again. So the chances of us coming to 43, probably pretty strong. Okay, probably really strong. I would say that. And we could even always come down to the 28. Now, I don't think we're going to come all the way down there right away. Actually, my prime buy is down there, which we've talked about. It was right in the trade plan title, which we'll soon get to. And please remember, the way that we do the weekend reviews, guys, it is all high time frame. So as you know, we do the daily trade plan really focuses on the levels that are nearby in the intraday trades and really what I think is going to be plausible to be played within that, morning or within that current day session. When I do the weekend review, this takes us out for the whole week. This is a high time frame, pulled out view of what I'm looking at and what I think could potentially happen, which is why we usually stick to the higher time frame specifically when we do this. So I just wanted to put that out there so everybody knew that, this plan for Sunday is really for the whole week. And I'm still maintaining that stance. And we're going to show you some really interesting areas here when we're done and kind of where it all goes south here. So check this out. All right, so I give you levels to play. We're in balance on balance at all-time highs, up on every time frame, in a positive gamma environment coming off a ridiculously low volume in the middle of summertime trading. Man, is it ever, right? This is the perfect cocktail for sleepy time trading. So be patient and let the structure come to you. Right now, we are rotating from the edge right back into value. There you go. That's what I talked about before. We were rotating from the very highs back into value, knowing where we closed at and seeing everything really kind of gave us a good perception. Now check this out. Do you see, and one of the things that I really wanted to point out that I actually talked about in the Discord room today, but do you see how we actually closed back below this leg to the high, this 09? This was such a big tell for us that we could get a little rotation. We had first popped up, we gained, we made a new all-time high, and then of course they failed and they left the all-time, or they left the daily leg down at 78.2250, which is the spot I explicitly drew out, and I'll even show you where I drew it out and said, if it's going to get hit, this is the problem. We got to get above this to continue to go. So check it out. Let's go ahead and get back into it. All right, so be patient, let structure come to you. Right now, we are rotating from the edge back into value, but the ladder is defined: 71.91, 77.70, 77.49, and then ultimately the money zone, 77.31 with the reclaim of 37. If this happens, this could squeeze super duper hard, and that is the setup that I like the most. So just putting it out right there, out of all the stuff that we're looking at, I have really one area that I'm focusing on the most. And I had, of course, in the trade plan, I talked about another trade that I actually took today, which was the 77.91. That was my second favorite spot, and we can soon go over that as well. So the one last emphasis, and I want to be crystal clear, okay? I am not bearish. I am looking for buys, and we are up on all time frames. And I'm telling you to exercise caution because the VIX is extremely low. And when we get this low, simple market mechanics say it needs rebalancing. A fierce 20% pop in the VIX would not be uncommon. A Trump tweet, a geopolitical event, whatever it may be, could send the market down 1% to 2%. Ultimately, for us to buy it up again. We have seen this happen dozens of times. Now, one of the things that I didn't get a chance to make a copy of, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys this. If you get an opportunity, this is a very important post. And again, this is not a bearish call by any means. I put out a post to the public. It's on X, it's on Substack, it's everywhere. You can find this. And this is really just about the VIX and how I know that you guys, if you've been with me longer than a week or two, you've heard me say every time we get in the $12, $13, $14 handle, we can expect a pretty monster pop. Well, guess what? That is absolutely true. And this whole thing is really a little bit mathy, but it's really interesting. And if you read this, it basically talks about how that I'm right? Not to say I'm right, but I'm right. The math says that every time we come down in here, we do get a knee-jerk reaction. And we do tend to get peeled off by 1% or 2%. There has been outlier, situations here, but I would highly recommend that you guys looking at this just based on what we can see from the way that history looks right now is that we could easily get a pullback for 1% or 2%, and they're just going to buy the shit out of again, which is everything that I've been saying anyway. But ultimately, something that we've seen happen dozens and dozens of times over the years. And so I just want everybody to be careful here because as we get super low in the VIX, guys, this kind of sets up for a knee-jerk reaction for us. I mean, we don't very often get a chance to see VIX all the way at these lows around $13, $14, $12. And it usually always happens around summertime or all-time high type trading. As you can see, the last time this happened was last Christmas, which makes sense because of the Santa Claus rally, et cetera, et cetera. Markets are pushing highs. And then before that, it was the summertime. Okay, so it's not unusual for it to be down here, but look at the reaction that we get every time we get down here. And it does stay down here for a couple days. In fact, the math that I was telling you guys in here actually says that it's going to stay around down here anywhere between 3 and 14 days before it gets a reaction. So kind of neat. It's not something that you could set a watch by and say, oh yeah, okay, today is the day. But of course, it kind of sets up for us just to be careful and pay attention and know that when this thing comes, do not try to step in front of this thing, okay? So make sure you take a look at this. It's out there for everybody. I think it's a very important read. And really, it's nothing more than just to tell everybody, don't be complacent, okay? It's that simple. That's really what it comes down to. It's not a bear call by any means, okay? So this is the deal, guys. And I wanted to show you this here because this was the chart that I took on Sunday. As you can see, we had that first close underneath 09, which was the first resemblance of weakness to me. And it wasn't a weakness to the point where I was ready to call, that we were going to get slammed because I am still ultimately bullish. We had a lot of levels that could play. And in fact, I took one of them today that didn't get the reaction that I was hoping for. But with that being said, listen, our process doesn't treat us wrong. It is what it is. We continue to just, do what it tells us. So we have these ultimate, setups. We had the 2250, which was the short and obviously under 09. I was looking to buy 75. Thankfully, I wasn't around for that because it flirted with it for like an hour today and then kind of fell on its face. Okay. But like I said in the actual trade in the weekend review, I even said 75 is not my favorite. Look what it says right here. You see that? Contained. Watch. That tells you right there. It's like, and I even said, it's right in the middle of the bullshit. I'm not really a fan of it. And so, that was probably a trade that I would have passed on anyway. And being back below 09 kind of gives us that thought process. Now, we have another spot way down here below 37. It's actually 33. That's the biggie. And that's what we're going to talk about at the end of the day here. So first and foremost, let's talk about this 22. If you guys recall, if you watched the weekend review, I talked about this spot up here. This was Thursday's push up. This was Friday's overnight balance. And then we sold off, only to come down and play 77.99.50. Now, don't forget that level. That level is important, and we're going to talk about it again. It was actually a major blocker today, so we'll get into that. And so check it out. We pop up off of the 99.50. We smack the 22, just like we talked about. That was the big high lost. And down goes Frazier, right? Well, guess what? They actually got, like I said, 0 rotations from this. And this was a beautiful call. And this was ultimately what I said for everybody, that this is kind of the kicker here, that this could potentially send us down under one condition. And I was really looking at this 91.75 as the possible play. And there's a reason behind that, and I'll show you as well. And if it wasn't for this level right here, I was going to start being a little concerned about this upside move, which I think we have seen, after this level didn't play today, we came down again quite significantly. And so we'll get into that right now. So this was the spot here. This was the big major profit taking spot at 22, and look for a little pullback. Not too bad, right? That was what's up. This was also the spot that we sat all Friday night, or all Thursday night into Friday. And so it was just obvious that this was a monster spot for us to pay attention to. And of course, we got the smack at the Globex. Well, it was in the middle of the night. It was about 6 in the morning. So, it is what it is. So now here's something interesting. Now I put both of these into one, and I'm going to show you the other chart here soon. But let's not forget, we had the big major profit taking zone at 22. Right? This was our big hit up here. We kind of crawled up here and then boom, right? As you can see it. But here was the interesting one that I actually saw in the Discord room. I mentioned it to everyone in there and I said, hey, listen, they're playing this. This is a daily progression down. We're playing 22 and now we're playing 0975. Check this out. 0975, the daily leg down. This is the blocker, guys. Check that out. This is going to be an interesting blocker for us. It is clearly support lost here and a leg down. And I think the really important thing to kind of keep in mind here, and this told us everything from the jump. I gave it one chance to buy, one chance. That's all I did. And, I had to trust the process. And but here's the deal. And this is what it ultimately comes down to. I want to get back above 09 on the long, right? If we can't get back above 09, it wasn't happening. And the level right below that was the 99. And so we just keep walking our important resistance levels down. And so this was a beautiful display of seeing 22 get hit. And then immediately at the open, they smacked the 09 and we started coming down. And I'm going to show you right now. Here is what the cash session looks like. Pretty freaking crazy. As you can see, we opened directly below it. We tapped this right here in the 0975 and we started to come down. And I told everybody in the room, I said, hey, listen, if this 91.75 doesn't hold, we're more than likely coming to 77.75, period. I mean, that is just how it was going to be. This is the big leg down. We opened below it, super soft, back tested it. Again, we just played the 22. But check this out. This is interesting. This is the ETH chart. And this is the cash session chart. Look at the overnight session, smacked the 22, perfect daily leg, hit it real nice. And then the 09 played this one here, and we started to come down. It was beautiful progression. I mean, it just really couldn't have gotten any better. And then boom, 75 was kind of the midpoint. And so I do think this could still rotate down. It is certainly possible. And I'll show you exactly where I think it could come to here shortly, which we talked about in the trade plan. But I just wanted to express this to you and show you. I mean, this is not easy stuff, guys. I mean, we are drifting at all-time highs. We have no reason. We have VIX at the lows. We have no reason to believe they're going to sell off. But at some point, we have to rotate to go find something to buy, right? And it's interesting to me because as we're in summertime sleepy trading, we've got low relative volume. Buyers seem to always be around until they're not. And then today, they literally just kind of let this thing go into free fall, which was pretty interesting. And I say free fall. I mean, shit. Honestly, we were so bored today in the Discord room, and I'll just show you right here. This is the trade that I took. We sat here for 3 hours. 3 hours. So right here, this is the first buy. This is my beautiful 4-hour, 77.91.75. We had a beautiful 4-hour right here that I'm not going to be jumping out of the car on, right? So I kind of put it out right there like, hey, I like the spot, but I'm not going to jump out the car on this one. This is not like, get your roll, get all the dice and push your money in the center, right? That is not that, right? But one of the reasons that I did like it, and I will show you, is the SPX confluence. But ultimately, as you can see, we played it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, swept it finally 4 times. I was in this trade, even though, and I'll admit, after looking at this when I saw this today, I admit, look at this. If 91.75 is going to play, we want to see price get back above 99. That is literally where I took profits. I guess shame on me for not following the plan there. I did take 91. We did ride it up. And I actually ended up pulling it back down and got stopped out for break even. And then they swept. I thought it was going to go, and I decided to try it one more time. And as you can see here, I ended up taking a loss on 5 accounts, $159 for a total of $700, which is no big deal. It's fine, but that was ultimately it. That's the only trade that I took today because I was concerned that we were coming down, but my process is still leaning us to the upside. So I took the trade. It was part of the plan. It worked out. I made money, and then I just couldn't leave it alone. I thought this sweep was going to send us higher, and I ultimately took a stop on that one. And that's how I finished the day. I was like, okay, we're good. We're good here. This is fine. It's Monday. It's sleepy time Monday and the whole 9 yards. So that is my one trade for the day, because this ultimately for me was the one spot that I was looking at. I said, okay, if they're going to go, this is going to be it. But I was very, very cautious because we had the daily progression down. We had smacked the 22 in the overnight session, and then we opened below 09 and tested it perfectly and started to come down. And I told everybody in the room, I said, guys, this may not work. Like, there's a chance that we're going to come lower, at least to 75, because daily, we're playing daily progression. And keep this in mind, and this goes for all the people that are trading my plan. Please know this, okay? This is a very important part for you to understand. I play the time frames just the same way we play the levels, okay? If I'm playing a 4-hour level, I would not look to trade a reversal off of a 1 hour. I would only look to stop a 4-hour move with another 4-hour or a daily move, okay? For instance, the same thing also applies for what we saw today. We saw the short from the 22 daily and the retest of the 09 daily at the cash session open. We're coming down, and my goof ass is buying a 4-hour level. Does a 4-hour level stop a daily? No, it does not. The only thing that you really need to play outside, to stop a daily is another daily. So with that being said, I was a little bit out of pocket, but that was, for me, that was the only spot that I really thought was worth trying. If it was going to go, that was going to be it. And of course it didn't. And, that's fine. I took my little $150 loss and we move on. But I think that's a very important aspect for everybody to know. For instance, if we are coming off a daily time frame and we are up 30, 40 points and you're like, okay, I think that's far enough. Don't do it by shorting a 4-hour or a 1 hour. That is not a big enough time frame. You need to either use the comparable time frame or larger. So you would use a daily or a weekly to look for that reversal. And so that is, in my opinion, why that long didn't work today. We were coming off 2 dailies. We come down into a 4-hour. I must be out of my mind to try, but I had to try. I mean, it's, listen, I am out of my mind, right? So, I do this for a living. I got to be crazy. All right. So back into the next here. Now here, check this out. Now, this was good stuff. So this is the big 77.99.50. This is the 4-hour level that we've talked about multiple times. I'm going to go ahead and pull this over so that you can see where it's coming from. We talked about this. There's a lot of explanation in the room. So, for some of you guys, it might be repetitive. For some of you, not so much. This is the 99.50, guys. This thing got plenty of smacks from the bottom side, as you know. This is the one that took us all the way down to play the 37 to take us to all-time highs. Now, we played this on Thursday for Friday on the pop-up, or Thursday for the pop-up and Friday. But the thing is just looking at this, we know that this is the major leg right here. This is a huge blocker for us. It's played from the backside multiple times, and it recreated another 4-hour there. And so just looking at this, we obviously had the big resistance zone at 77.99.50. This was the tested 4-hour. Now, look at the way they just backed right up into this. They tested it 2 times on the 1 hour and then continued to come all the way down off of this into this daily area. As you can see, this is our significant 4-hour, and it is the gate for everything above. Guys, that is such a huge statement. It is the gate for everything above, which is why ultimately when I got stopped out the second time, I said, all right, I'm done buying. There ain't no sense in this. It's over with. 91.75 played. We couldn't get over 99.50. We know we're smacking from the daily. We know we're smacking from the 09 daily. Now we're playing 91. We can't get above 99. We're coming down. It's just that simple, right? And I say come down, I mean just rotating, not necessarily falling out of the sky. All right, so let's see what else we got. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, and I guess that's it. All right, so that is it for all my slides. So we're going to go into the market here in a second. I'm just going to kind of pull up what I'm looking at, and we'll talk about what's going to lead into tomorrow. And I want to remind everyone, we have no news this week. We have FOMC minutes on Wednesday, which is nothing. I know it's a red tag news event, but trust me, we already know what happened in FOMC. We were all there. We don't need to read the minutes again. We'll get a little shake, But that is ultimately the only red tag news we have this week. So as we sit here with super low VIX and at all-time highs, it could be a little bit of a snoozer. And I got to tell you, it was a difficult trade today. Like, as you can see, this is a 1 hour chart right here. And this is the area that I was long from. Almost 3 hours we sat in this before it decided to give it up. After I left, of course, they left, they dumped it. But ultimately, the process played beautiful. It was really in my situation here, it was just I was on the wrong side of the trade and I took my little loss and I moved on. So, we had, we're up on all time frames. And so either way you wanted to play this was right, in my opinion. And it's just one of those things where you just got to keep your risk in check and keep moving. So let's go ahead and take a look at this market. I want to show you guys what I'm really, really looking at, and let's go from there. So this is, the 4 hour chart, and I've overlaid everything. At this point, we've wiped 2250. Let me go ahead and pull my pin up here. We've wiped 2250, and let me see my 1 hour. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. You're gonna like this. Where's my pin? Where are you at? Here we go. All right. So now we can cross 2250 off our list. We can cross 09 off our list. And we can kind of cross 9950 off. I don't want to be too hasty about the 9950. And the reason that I say that is right now we are making a weekly leg down that is still very much developing. I wouldn't get too excited, but technically speaking, this is an untested weekly resistance. Now, that goes into the same thing that I pointed out over the weekend. I said, hey, 2250, this is untested daily. I was like, we're technically up on all time frames, but it could get a reaction. But ultimately, I'm looking for higher. Well, guess what? As you guys know, this got a fantastic reaction, even though it was still developing. The same applies for the weekly. So I don't want to count 99 out completely. Actually, I will count the 99.50 4 hour out. We know that that was very much tested, but we have a developing weekly here at 7,800, which could be a monster resistance level. In fact, if this weekly plays and gets some follow through, we could end up coming all the way down into 76.22, which is like 200 points lower, 180 points lower. So that is possible. So I just, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying don't count that level out. We will come back to that for sure. Now, here's the other one. I now have, let me go ahead and hide all the rest of these. We now have 91.75 is untested from the backside. Well, we know it played fantastic previously from the bottom up. So we were going to hope that it's going to play, once again from the bottom up. And it did hold for support today for almost 3 hours, even though it only got a 9-point pop. It didn't quite give us what we anticipated. I do still think this level could get a potential reaction, especially depending on where we come from. And I mean, if we were to back up right now and play this, I could easily see this bringing us down, right? And so this was a big monster close for us down here. We actually are starting to, they haven't lost support on the 4 hour, but I can certainly see them beginning to get weak on certain things. And so as long as we continue to basically hold, we got to stay above 77.31.50 before we shift anything. And this ultimately is, in my opinion, the best buy. And I know it's pretty far from down here, but who knows? We could wake up and be down here. We don't really know. So 77.31.50 is fabulous. This actually lines up really, really nicely with this SPX level that I have over here that I'm really watching like a hawk. So I'll show you guys this. So check this out. So this was SPX. And this is that level all the way down here, 77.09. It's a daily level. It's untested. It's a gap fill. There's a lot to like about this. The other level is 77.28, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's obviously kind of decent. So this is what I wanted to show you too. If you guys recall, I told you I took that long from 91.75. We took some profits at 99.50, but it never went. And I just want to show you why I was so adamant about taking this. I actually went in on this trade 2 times because I thought it could be decent. And the reason that I really was kind of fishing for this thing, and I'll just show you more, so it makes perfect sense. As you guys know, I use SPX as my guide, right? And so this was a beautiful daily level from SPX, the 77.71. We got a nice smack off of this prior. We come down, we held this level, and we started to basically hold this and start to push it back above our reclaim level at 77.76. If I go even lower on the lower time frame, I'll just show you kind of how this looked right here. We had this, spot. It was a low. We held it, we popped up, and I'm like, okay, we come down in here, we hold these dailies, we push above 76, this thing's going to go. So I really liked that sweep structure. I liked that it was a daily. I liked everything about it, which is one reason why I went in, 2 times on ES. And as you can see, the 77.71 actually played perfect multiple times, just like our 91 did. And then they came down here and played that last little 1 hour that I talked about in the weekend review at 67, and it played. So, and then, down here, look at this. This is the other spot, 77.54. It played as well, but we're not getting any pops off it. 4 or 5 points. I don't even really consider that anything too amazing to talk about. You guys know if it doesn't pay, 10 or 20 points, I'm not really that excited about it. So, we came down here. We just didn't get any rotation at all today. They pushed lower, base sideways, pushed lower, base sideways. And so, that was kind of the mode of the day today, which I just wanted to show you essentially when I throw these levels on here, what we're looking at. So this 77.31 is the 4 hour that aligns with that SPX daily. I really, in my mind, this is the best play. It's great. And if we play this, we have a very defined trigger. It's very easy. We want to see 77.31 play. You sit on your hands until you get back above 77.37.25. This daily right here, or that low right there. When you play this, and you get, say, 31, you get back above 37, just get long, super long. You're going to take profits of 52, and then you're going to take profits around the 70, 75 area, and then you're going to try to hold runners to take you all the way up because you got to take profits of 7,800. We talked about that weekly. And then, of course, after that, everything else is tested. So, we are back basically in this area here, guys, that we talked about that I really did not want to see us get back in, but we're here. So this is that area here that I was telling you, this big balance area. And then one of the other reasons why I took the 91 was because I really thought that if we pull back in here and reclaim yesterday's low and get back above this 99, that we could really squeeze super hard. Unfortunately for me, we just never got back above 99. As I said before, that was truly the gate to everything to squeeze us higher, and they just couldn't make it happen. So, it is what it is. So at this point in time, I have no reason to believe that we can't rotate lower. Okay. I have one small 1 hour time frame that you guys know how I feel about that shit. And that is at 77.49. The nice part about it is it's a previous naked point of control, and it has a beautiful daily at 52. It gives us a great trigger as well as the monthly VWAP. I mean, I do think that this level could potentially give us a reaction, but we'll see. And ultimately, what I'm really waiting for is this down here. If this plays and we reclaim, we're going to have another banner week, but we're going to have everybody in the room making money. As long as this plays and reclaims, we will just absolutely do our thing. So with that being said, that's what I got for you guys, because underneath 28, we're basically going to come down. Okay. As you can see, underneath 28, we can start to fill in all these inefficiencies. We got a big gap fill. We got all this 76.22 and the 96, which is the big area here that I showed you on the weekly. And this is a huge, huge spot to buy. I'm looking forward to buying that whenever that time comes. And so we'll just kind of play it by ear for now. Like I said, we have absolutely no catalyst this week to push us out of this massive, range, unless they just do it naturally through, geopolitical and tweets and this and that and the overnight price action. I don't really see us losing the 28, but I don't want to put my name on it. You know what I mean? Like, it is certainly possible. I just know right now, with us being in balance, relative low volume, positive gamma, it will take a Trump tweet or some news environment to kind of send us down. Something will have to break or at least scare everybody momentarily. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to leave you at that. I appreciate everyone joining me. I went way over time today. So thank you for being here. Tomorrow will be another fantastic day. We'll get the trade plan out to you first thing in the morning, and just be patient. You guys know how this is. Mondays are usually sucky anyway, right? We come down. I know some of you made some money. I had some guys in the room that took the short. They did great. But what I'm getting at, and we talked about this last week, if you have 1 or 2 fantastic trades a week, even 3 fantastic trades a week, you can easily put up thousands of dollars, and you don't have to be in every trade. Leave all the noise for the suckers. Focus on the high quality process trades, and you and I will conquer the markets. And so I will see you first thing tomorrow. Cheers and have a great one.